Good evening. You're on the smoking section, and tonight I'm very pleased to have my good friend and colleague, Paul Neff. Paul, how's it going today?
It's going all right.
I like you really. I like that purple. That really becomes you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, Paul, you haven't seen the video that is our interview where Emily Ouija interviews Kristina Kehrer.
I can't wait to see it.
Right, it's pretty good, and of course, Amanda did some amazing editing work. So like the cutaways and the different shots are quite good, and so I think you'll enjoy it. So without further ado, I think we're going to go to it, and then afterwards we can have a little insightful commentary between you and me.
Sounds good.
Let's see if I can get all of this working together here. You know, this is pretty complicated for me, and we're going to go right there. And this should be the video. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yes.
All right.
So my name is Emily Ouija, and I'm here with Kristina Kehrer. So, Kristina, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to, one of my ideas with this segment is just to talk to ordinary smokers, talk about how they feel about smoking now, about public perceptions and attitudes about smoking and how they affect you. Kristina, I know you've been a guest on the smoking section previously, and we decided that we wanted to do a special segment where we could talk in a casual, relaxed atmosphere, just to ordinary, everyday smokers about how they feel about public perceptions of smoking now, with smoking bans being so prevalent.
Right.
So I thought it was a nice opportunity for us to talk.
Okay.
And I know, Kristina, you mentioned just now that you actually don't like being in smoky environments indoors anymore.
No, I like it in theory, the
Yeah.
indoor smoking, because I'm rebellious, but no, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I don't know. It's just what you're used to, I guess.
It's true. I think it can definitely be said that people have gotten used to not smoking indoors now.
But that being said, I'm going to have a cigarette because I've been working real hard
That's right.
today, and I need one.
Yeah.
I think that when I walk into a place that still has somebody smoking inside, I get excited, like, whoo. My husband went to a smoke shop in East Boston, and the guy was smoking, and he was so excited. It's like, it's such a rare thing. It's just like unicorn.
Yeah,
that you
it
get
is.
very excited when you see it. Like I was telling you, it's just because I had a kid and we didn't smoke inside, and I got used to that.
Yeah, I find it interesting psychologically, even in myself. I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. I think, in principle, I do like indoor smoking, but I noticed that physiologically, I think we've become so unaccustomed to it,
Right.
that it really, you just notice it more. And
Yeah.
it strikes you. It's something I wish I didn't notice and that I didn't.
Yeah, I
pick
know,
up
it
on.
is curious.
But-
Even when I walk down the street, I always smell cigarettes, and it takes you aback, and you think, gosh, when I was a kid, this was
Right,
like
it was
so
nothing.
of
It was-
the norm, like
right.
this was everywhere.
That's right.
Although even as a, in the late 80s and early 90s when I was in clubs, I know that I remember plenty of nights where, the smoke would
Yeah.
really affect you by the end of the night.
Right,
You'd be
right.
like, ah.
Right. Well, I think we all have those nights.
But we
you know,
still
that-
smoke.
Right.
I mean, it didn't
right.
stop us.
Right.
We were tough.
I think physiologically there has been a change. I think people just notice smoke more now. You can actually smell when someone has smoked when they come back inside. And it's unfortunate to me in a
Mind if
way.
I smoke?
No, of course not. I plan on smoking myself as well. No, but in a way it disappoints me that. But I also feel like it's something that could change. If there were more places that allowed smoking indoors, I think people would gradually become reaccustomed to some extent
Yeah.
to it.
I don't see that happening, do you?
What I'd like to think would happen.
I know when it'll happen.
When?
Armageddon.
Armageddon.
When Donald Trump becomes president, we'll all be smoking everywhere.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's all about also where you live, because there's still cities in the U.S. where there are smoking bars. Like for instance,
That's true.
next weekend I'm actually going to Philadelphia, where they still do have a good amount of smoking bars there. I think it's something you get used to.
Yeah, and there are airport rooms.
There are,
Not around
yeah.
here, but yeah, I've been
there
to
are.
them.
And I belong to a private club here, actually in Somerville, where you can smoke. So I think it's not something that's unheard of. But I mean, what I would like to see happen in an ideal world is that we could have the option of smoking bars.
Right.
I think
That's a good
Yeah,
compromise.
I think so.
It really is.
so. Let's hope for that.
Are you pushing for that? Is that what you're working on?
I mean, specifically, no, we haven't really done any work on that, and it's an interesting question.
I can't imagine what
Legislator.
Can you pronounce that for me? Legislator, you will rally to be on your side.
Just as we're talking about, this idea occurs to me that could actually be a ballot initiative, because last year, Jeff Yalanusian, who is owner of Brennan Smoke Shops, he actually introduced a ballot initiative in the state of Massachusetts to abolish the sales tax on tobacco. And it didn't actually get very far, but it was a good first attempt. So I mean, anyone in Massachusetts can.
My hero.
Yeah, anyone in Massachusetts can introduce a state ballot initiative. So actually, I think that might be a good candidate for a ballot initiative. So maybe that's something we can work on in the future.
I go for the state tax before smoking inside. If we could just have a little break on
Right,
that.
exactly. Right. Well,
Because as Steven said, I don't know if that went through, the federal dollar tax.
I'm not sure if that went through yet
It
either.
was in the budget. Another federal dollar.
Right. Well, Jeff's idea was that the sales tax is calculated on top of the other taxes, so it's calculated on top of the federal tax. So it's actually a tax on a tax, which is, just an abhorrent concept.
What can we throw
Right.
in the Boston Harbor?
But just in general, it's interesting to hear you talk about how just being indoors with smoke affects you. Do you feel that smoking bans have affected you in other ways? Do you feel psychologically as a smoker? Do you feel?
I think the worst one, particularly, is in airports. That because since 9/11, with all the security in the old days, you could run out. You could run out and have a cigarette.
Right.
Flying, traveling is very nerve-wracking.
It is. Yeah.
And
It's
since
stressful,
Boston
yeah.
doesn't have a smoking room, and a lot of the airports don't. I mean, when you get out to the Midwest, a lot of them do. But I would say that is really where I feel it, because sometimes you can have really long
Right.
times at an airport. I would say, I'm pretty adaptable and I grew accustomed to it. I can tell you what I have found interesting is it's the new byproduct of smokers smoking outside. There's a sense of community when you get out there, and I've had so many conversations with strangers on the street.
Interesting. So
the
you-
smokers,
Yeah.
even at airports,
So you actually see that as a positive thing, the
it's
sense
just,
of community.
it's just a byproduct.
It's a byproduct.
Yeah, I mean, we're all out there smoking. We know we're all the demon children of society, so we kind of bond together on that level, or we're just friendly people because
Right.
we're relaxed.
True.
We're having a smoke.
True. Yeah, that's true. I think it's interesting that you say that that's a byproduct. So I think that anything is going to have its good. I tend to think of smoking bans as predominantly negative, but I think even things that you think of as predominantly negative can have unintended positive outcomes, which is an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to think deeper about if it's had a negative. I think it's more the psychological and the just the demonizing effect of it. That would be the thing that's bothered me the most.
I agree. I think it bothers me. I think when I first started hearing people, like at work or wherever, acquaintances talking about someone and saying things like, "Oh, he or she is a smoker," and they'd say it in this way that it seemed as if they were saying, "Oh, this is a bad person." And to me, when I first started hearing that kind of thing, that's when it really struck me that, hey, we are being demonized.
Yeah.
People are talking about you as if there's something wrong with you or morally bad.
And there's, we all talk about the person who fans their face if they walk past you on the street. And you know, your response is basically you just want to run after them and blow smoke in their face.
Right, yeah.
You know, it doesn't help. And as a matter of fact, for some people, it just makes you smoke harder.
True. I think some of us are. I definitely know that I myself am somewhat of a contrarian, and I tend to resist any efforts to control me. I think some people are just like that.
Yes.
So maybe a lot of smokers are actually like that just by nature.
They might be. Well, the ones nowadays.
The ones that are still smoking.
The ones who held out.
Exactly.
I mean, I know a lot of people who have tried to quit forever, like are always trying to quit. And, I've never been that person. I think I did try once when I was pregnant. I smoked all through my pregnancy, and I still had a 9-pound, 8-ounce baby
that's
that
great.
was completely healthy. So
That's great.
I know that maybe not everybody can be strong like Ox, but
Right.
I was, and he was.
great.
What was I saying? I lost my train of thought.
I think we were talking just about the public perception of smokers and smoking. Just how that affects you. I'm not sure what the long-term psychological effects are. I'm not sure if it maybe just makes us dig in our heels even more. Some of us.
Oh, I was talking about quitting smoking. The one time, so when I first got pregnant, I quit coffee, not because I wanted to, but my body said yuck.
Oh, really?
And I love coffee. I drink coffee now still. But while I was pregnant, I couldn't drink coffee, but I was able to smoke. And I did try and quit because I thought, I should try and be a nice mother.
Right.
And try and do it. And it lasted 2 days. I even went to the Russian.
The Russian? What's
In
that?
Brookline. Many quitters of, many people who have tried to quit will know what I mean when I say the Russian in Brookline. He was big around here forever, supposedly, cured a lot of people of smoking.
Ah, okay.
I went to him. I didn't understand a word he said. He even brought me in front of the class and did all his whatever non-smoking juju on my, so it lasted 2 days, and I would describe the 2 days as, for me personally, hellish, but for the world, I didn't even have to open my mouth. Yes, I don't think I said a word, but I'd walk into a room and small children and animals would just flee. It wasn't pretty. And I figure, I'll know when I need to quit smoking because I've quit other things in life, and you get to a point. I heard somebody describe it once for them. They knew the day when they had just smoked their allotment of cigarettes. They just knew this was how many I was allowed to smoke, and I was done.
Right. I cringe a little bit hearing about people now, honestly, who will take Chantix and things like that because just from what I've heard about the drug, it just seems like it has really serious side effects. And I always think, if you really are resorting to such drastic, methods to try to quit smoking, then maybe you really shouldn't be quitting smoking.
Well, you're just, I say stick with the devil, Like I can't stand the pharmaceutical industry. The only pharmaceuticals I like are the ones that actually get you high. If you're just taking a pill to solve some existential crisis, it's not.
That's just boring, right?
It's totally boring.
That's funny.
But I don't like the pharmaceutical company at all.
Right.
And I don't like Stephen and I on the show, we're talking about the trade-off. Like they're demonizing nicotine, which is a stimulant or a drug that we all know about it, but they've, replaced it with all these meds that, I almost want to do a survey. I think everybody I know is on meds. And
that's true. I think I'm one of the few people I know who doesn't take any medications
I don't take
at
any
all.
meds.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any difference between nicotine and whatever they're giving people for anxiety or depression or any of that, but why are they not demonizing those people? But I think their day will come.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think their day, they will be the outcast someday.
Maybe.
And then they'll be upset that they were so mean to smokers.
Maybe. I wouldn't really wish it on anyone. I don't wish that anyone becomes isolated or an outcast, but I think it does tend to be human nature, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so,
it will.
Right.
Yeah, the pendulum will swing, I'm pretty sure. It may not swing in our lifetime.
Right. But it's I think societal attitudes will change eventually. In the meantime,
Something new will come.
yeah, something new will come. In the meantime, keep smoking. Well, it was great to talk to you, Kristina.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for joining me
Pleasure
today.
to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you as well. Thank you.
So,
Well, Paul, that's our video, and, I really liked the way Emily and Kristina interacted, very friendly, and brought up a lot of good points. Was there anything that Kristina said that, for example, that you might particularly relate to?
she had a very healthy attitude toward modern medications, and she had a good sense of perspective. And the image of them sitting there and smoking and sipping coffee, it looked wholesome.
And, it's really nice.
It's pretty hard to keep that hatred going when an image like that is basically pleasant, and I think most people see it that way.
I was a little disappointed, perhaps, when Kristina said she'll know when it's the last cigarette. I mean, this idea that eventually everybody quits is really, that was the only note that perhaps...
Well, it's hypothetical. You could say the same about drinking. Some people drink a lot, and then suddenly they know they've had their last drink. Maybe it doesn't affect them the same way. They don't get the same thing from it. But I mean, her attitude towards smoking, it was healthily casual and light.
And did you like the way Amanda and Kristina edited that? I mean, the cutaways, and it seemed to be just about long enough in terms of where it went and how long the video was.
Yeah, very nice.
And I was very happy to hear Emily say, keep smoking.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I think smoking is a very important thing, almost even if you don't like it, because you were standing up to a very ugly, authoritarian kind of program.
Right.
And, if people at all believe in the right of the individual to determine his or her own destiny,
Right.
there is no behavior right now that I can think of that is more anathema to these authoritarians than we smokers.
Right, and yet, over the past 50 years, their efforts to persuade the whole culture to reject smoking completely have fallen flat.
Well, there's certainly a
The fact
lot of
that-
people
that,
hanging on, that's for sure, like you and me.
Two nice women, they're having a nice conversation. I mean, if the public in general accepted the extremist position, you wouldn't be able to find nice people like
Well,
that.
and you make a very good point also, that you say simply that the drasticness of the anti-smoking measures indicates a weakness in their side.
Right, they failed to persuade. They wanted the public to all things smoking, they wanted to be the experts on, but there are other aspects besides the medical. There's the cultural, there's the psychological, there's different things.
Right, and
And as a matter of fact, the fact that it's survived so long
under such harsh
such-
conditions.
means that it merits study.
Well,
Study motivated by curiosity, not the desire to exterminate it.
Right, but their desire to exterminate it and to exercise massive control over people's lives is so great that they are, I think, completely blinded to any kind of, certainly those, it appears at this point that they are what you might be called unpersuadables. I mean, people like, Frieden, Thomas Frieden, who is in the head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, our Stanton Glantz, our Mitch Meyer of the Campaign from Tobacco-Free Kids, our all of these people who have gained very, very powerful positions in the United States government. I don't think they could ever be persuaded, but we have to hope, actually.
Well, maybe they can't be, But when you really get down to what their position is and you examine it, it's not very appealing, you know. And they strike me as people who are in arrested development.
Well, so
For
you,
example, when I was
Yeah.
10 years old, the Surgeon General's report came out.
1964,
And
yes.
prior to that point, I'd been, you know, as a child, I'd hated smoking. But by the time I was 10 and that report came out, the prospect of there being no more smoking at all kind of bothered me. Even then.
As a child?
My child's mind was complex enough to feel ambivalent.
Well, that's probably
And I think
indicates some
mo-
kind of characteristic that you have as a, like as Emily and Christina were saying, that those people who continue to smoke are people who probably resist programming by the government, particularly.
And there are a lot of non-smokers, as a matter of fact, who, in a way, they hate being non-smokers because they don't want to be seen as part of this movement.
Right, but, and I think, you know, so I think we smokers, you know, it's funny when you say you hated smoking as a child. I have a good friend named John Silva, and he likes to talk a lot about his early childhood. And one thing, his father was a professional gambler.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, both his parents smoked, I guess, he says they smoke 4 packs a day or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that.
I don't know if that's possible.
No, I know. But he says before his father even got out of bed, he had 4 cigarettes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if his mother or not, but so I said to John, I said, the last time we were together, I said, well, in a household like that as a child, did you and your sister mind it? Did it at all bother you that there was that much smoke? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, no, it didn't bother me at all because, you know, he said because smoking was all around me. Mm-hmm. But it's funny because there are people who are John's age who it did bother as children.
Well, I'll tell you.
Like you, for example.
Well, I became acclimated, though. Once I started going out, you know, once I was 15, 16, and started going out with friends who had cars, a majority of them smoked, so.
But I mean, my sister and I were, you know, exposed to smoke everywhere and in our apartment. And I know, for example, that my father at the breakfast table would blow smoke rings for us, and we loved it.
I remember being entertained by that at some point.
And we would go to the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and when you got out of the opera, you would be in the foyer, and they would be selling drinks and stuff, you know, during the intermissions and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the smoke would be so thick you couldn't see the doors.
That reminds me of a Donovan concert I went to in 1968. Same thing.
And we didn't mind it at all. We didn't mind it at all.
Well,
My sister and I didn't, and John Silva evidently didn't.
Actually, I guess by age 14, I thought it was kind of funny. I enjoyed it.
You know, the whole era, it's fortunate that we grew up because, as I say to other people, in my life, there has been no social change that is anywhere near comes equal to the change in the attitudes and in the laws towards smoking and smokers.
Imposed by a minority, I must say.
And, you know, so it's the biggest social change that I have seen, certainly far greater than, you know, let's say the civil rights movement or even the gay rights movement.
Right.
I mean, this idea that smoking is...
But in all this time, though, the nice smoker, like we just saw in our feature, has always been present somewhere.
Well, there's no question about that.
You know,
there's no question
to be
about
seen.
that.
It's so making it impossible to advance the idea that smokers are immoral. You know, at the very least, it sure does make it questionable.
Well, I would agree with you there, 100%.
They're asking a lot of us to consider people who smoke immoral, and you know, to kick them out in the cold.
Well, it certainly seems like, you know, there is a lot of room for hope, and I think, you know, even though they have momentum, let's hope that momentum dies a fiery death. Paul, thanks for being on the show tonight.
Oh, my pleasure.